Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another Maynard Costerisan Third Party Thursday. Today we have Mark from Greenshades. He's going to be giving us some information as far as some payroll solutions and things like that. And if you have any questions throughout the webinar, please go ahead and put them in the chat on the bottom right-hand side of the panel, and Mark will answer them at the end of the webinar. So enjoy. Thank you. Mark, go ahead and take it from here.
All right, thank you. All right, so I am Mark Horvath. I am the Regional Account Executive here at Greenshades, or one of the Regional Account Executives, and I will be just running through a overview of our employee portal, all the modules that are available there, as well as our payroll tax service here today. And if you have any questions, feel free to, again, type those into the chat, and I can get those answered at the end of the presentation. All right, so to start off, our employee portal is an online hosted solution. Your employees would access it by going to greenemployee.com. Your admins would be able to go to greenshadesonline.com, and they can be accessed in both of those different websites. Now, there is an application that we install on your server, your GP server, called the Greenshades Online Connector, and that connector is what's going to be syncing information from GP up to the Greenshades website, and it'll also sync information back into GP through that connector for various different modules. We do also support other ERPs as well, so if you're not using GP, we do have other options available as well. Now I'm just going to get signed in here to our employee portal, and I'll show you everything from the employee side and what they're going to see. When the employee first goes to log in, they're going to go to greenemployee.com. They would search for your company here, and it would take them into your company login page. You can also just give them this link here, and it'll take them directly to the same place. But on the screen, you'll be able to customize your own company logo here. Your company name will be displayed. The color scheme can be adjusted, and your employees are going to be using an email address and password to log in here. We do have a mobile app that's free to download on Apple and Android devices that has some features on it. It doesn't have all the full functionality that the website has, but they can do some different things. They can look at their pay stubs, W-2s, and 1095Cs from the mobile app. If you're using the time entry module, they'll be able to clock in and out using the mobile app, and all of their time entries will be synced up to the timesheet on the employee portal. The time off module would also allow them to submit time off requests from the mobile app. So they'll be able to select their time, well, the type of time that they want to use, the number of hours that they have available will show here, and then they can select their date or date range and enter in the number of hours that they want to use for that time off request. All right, and then we also have, with the expense reporting module, it allows your employees to upload pictures of receipts using the mobile app as well. Now, these receipts don't get submitted submitted directly with the expense report from the mobile app. It just allows them to take a picture of the receipt, and it uploads to what we call My Greenspace, and then they would be able to log into the employee portal and build their expense reports on the portal itself, and they'll be able to attach those images that they uploaded from the mobile app using the website there. All right, they'll also have access to see other employees that have time off requests coming up. So your managers would also be able to see that. So if they have any subordinates that have time off requests, they'll be able to see all of that there. All right, and so I'm just going to get logged in here as our test employee, Chet Stebman. All right, so once the employee types in their email and password on their login page, it's going to bring them right into the home page on the employee portal here. And so the first thing you'll notice is across the top, we have a bunch of different tabs here. Each of these tabs is essentially a separate module. Some of the modules are packaged together, but each of these is, for the most part, considered a separate module. All right, on the home page, you'll notice a few different things. We have our tasks and notifications over here. Tasks is going to show anything that's been assigned to the employee to complete, like if there's any HR documents or something that they need to electronically sign off on, they would receive a task for that. Notifications will show anything that's been approved or denied by a manager. So if they change their address or submitted a time off request or submitted their timesheet for approval, once it's approved or denied, they would receive a notification for that there. The company bulletins, you can post anything you want your employees to be aware of there. So if you have like a company newsletter or if you have some sort of company announcement that you want to post there, you can post it in there. You can type whatever you would like in there. You can add links to other websites or attach certain documents like PDFs or Word documents. You can attach those in there. Your most recent pay stub info is going to show right here. So we are going to be pulling in data to generate your pay stubs. We'll be pulling in all of your payroll transactions every pay period, and we'll use those payroll transactions to generate the pay stubs on the portal. And then we would push those out to the employee portal for employees to see. And you can schedule it to push out automatically, or you can choose to push it out manually. It's up to you how you want to post those. But the employee will receive a email notification, and if they have it set up, they can also receive text message notifications letting them know that they have a new pay stub available here. And on this screen, it's going to give a brief summary. If they want to see a full detailed view of that, they can click view here, or they can also come up here and go into pay stubs, and they'll be able to see a PDF version of their pay statement here. And so, of course, ours is pretty old because we have we don't update our test workspace often for new employees' information anyways. But our pay stub will look something like this. It's very similar to what GP generates. We do have the ability to do customizations. So if you need your pay stub to look a specific way, we can do customizations for an additional fee. But the employee can download this, save it as a PDF, or print it to blank paper. We do keep a history of the pay stubs online, so they can go back and look at previous pay stubs if they need to. Now this module, the pay history module, is part of the base package, and that base package we call the employee access package. And that's going to include your pay history, your HR profile, and direct deposit, which can be accessed right here. And so your pay history will allow you to post pay stubs, W-2s, and 1095-Cs to the portal. And then your direct deposit, if we come in here, will allow the employee to edit their direct deposit information, and it will sync back into GP once it's approved, of course. So the employee will be able to come in here. They can add multiple accounts if they need to. We are going to be verifying routing numbers. So once they type in the routing number, it will tell us what bank it belongs to, or if it's an invalid routing number, it'll say unknown. And then we would have them type in the account number here, select if it's checking or savings, and if they have multiple accounts selected, they can select how they want their wages distributed across those accounts. All right. You can also require employees to upload an image of a voided check when they're making direct deposit changes. So they would just hit choose file, find that image, and attach it here. When you go in to approve these direct deposit changes, there's a checkbox that you'll be able to check to tell GP to run a pre-note as well. So if you wanted to run a pre-note to verify the account, you can do that as well. All right, so jumping over to HR profile here. The HR profile module allows the employees to edit their personal information, so they can change their name, address, marital status, dependents, emergency contacts, work location if you have it set up to allow them to. So each of these different fields, you can also limit what they can change. So if you didn't want them to be able to change their first name, then they wouldn't be able to type in that box. You can also choose what fields are required, and they can make any changes here. Any changes that they make here do get submitted over for approval. And then once approved, it will sync back into GP and update that information in GP as well. You can also set it up to auto approve if you prefer that. All right, so that's everything with the base package there. Jumping over to our enhanced HR package, that's going to include the time off module, expense reporting, and employee evaluations. So the time off module is going to be pulling in your employees' available time off hours from GP. So it's not actually going to be doing the accruals. The accruals are still going to be done in GP, but we'll pull that information into the website here, and the employee is going to be able to see the different types of time they have available to use, as well as the number of hours that they have available. And they'll be able to run through and actually submit time off requests here. So I mentioned earlier, they can do it from the mobile app, and then they can also do it right from the website here. They would just select their date range or date, if it's just one day they're taking off, number of hours they want to use, and the type of time they want to use, and then enter in their comments if they have any. Then when they hit save, that's going to be sent over for approval, and you can assign who you want to approve those types of requests. So if you want those types of requests to go to their supervisor would receive an email notification letting them know that they have a time off request awaiting approval. And your supervisors, you can give them manager permissions without giving them access to the admin site. And if they have manager permissions, they'll have access to this employee management tab on the employee portal. And that will allow them to manage the employees that are under them. Now, if you have admins that should be able to adjust settings and stuff like that, they would have access to the admin site and not just the employee management tab here. All right, so that time off request would be submitted for approval. The supervisor would be able to open up the time off request and review it, see how many hours the employee has available to use. They can also look at other employees that have time off requests coming up to see if there's any overlap or if they need to deny the time off request for whatever reason. But if they choose to approve it, they can approve it and have a Outlook calendar event scheduled, and they'll be able to email that out to the employee and have them add that to their calendar if needed. Now, if the employee, for whatever reason, decides that they need to cancel their time off request, they can just come in here, hit view on the request, as long as it's before the actual day they're requesting off, and they would be able to just hit cancel there, and that will add those hours back into their available balance. All right, so jumping over, so that's everything on time off. Jumping over to our expense reporting. So expense reporting allows your employees to submit expense reports for reimbursement, or if you have employees that have corporate cards and you want to keep track of their spending, they can also use this to submit expense reports to keep track of all of that. And you can review all of their receipts and everything there. And you'll have the ability to set up different categories that employees can use. So we have our library here that you can choose from. So when an employee needs to come in and submit an expense report, they'll be able to select from whichever reports that you create during the implementation process or later on if you have additional ones created. But I'll just do a travel one here. And then within these reports, you'll also be able to set up subcategories that employees can select from to add to their expenses. And for our travel expenses, we'll have stuff like mileage, airfare. In here, we can type in our report name. Maybe they took a trip to Miami and it was on a specific date or date range. And we can put in a description if we need to. And then down here is where we're going to add our expenses. So maybe they drove their own car to the airport, so we can put in mileage here. If they paid for their airfare, they can put in their airfare there, and maybe they took a cab while they were in Miami. They can add all of those here. They can add pictures of receipts from their computer if they have them saved on their computer, or if they uploaded them from the mobile app, there will be another button here that says add receipt from my Greenspace, and they'll be able to attach those images from the mobile app by searching in there. So they would just fill out all their information here, the date that this occurred, the vendor, like for taxi, it could be yellow cab or something, and then put in a description and then the amount, and it'll calculate the reimbursement amount and add up everything at the end. If you have employees that have corporate cards that shouldn't be reimbursed, they're going to make sure they check this box here to show that it's not reimbursable. And then it's just going to keep track of their spending here. But at the end, it's going to tally up everything that they're requesting to be reimbursed for and give a total amount here. And if all that looks good, they'll submit this for approval. And then once approved, it will actually sync back into GP and create a batch in GP that you would process with payroll, and the employee is going to receive that reimbursement on the regular paycheck. It'll just show up as a separate line item there. All right, that's pretty much everything for expense reporting. Jumping down to employee evaluations here. Employee evaluations allows you to create different types of evals for your managers to complete on the employees under them. So if you wanted to create like a 90-day new hire eval, and then you could also have like a ongoing 6-month or annual eval, you can create separate evaluations for those different needs. And it is going to keep track of when the next evaluation is due for each employee based on either their hire date or rehire date, or you can even select a specific date to keep track of it by. And it will send their supervisor or manager a notification letting them know that they have an evaluation coming due. And then the manager will be able to come into the site, the employee portal here. They go to the employee management tab, go into their evaluations folder, and they'll be able to actually run that evaluation on that employee. I'm just going to pull up one that's already been completed here because it pretty much looks the same from this side. So when the manager is going through the evaluation, they're going to be able to see the different criteria that the employee should be evaluated on, and they'll be able to see the different ratings that they can submit here. Like, so we have our criteria, we have attendance, teamwork, revenue, presentation, and then we have our ratings over here, and this number scale can be whatever you'd like. It could be 0 to 3, 0 to 5, 10, 20. You can also use a word scale like needs improvement or meeting expectations. You can use something like that. In here, you're going to be able to type in the different criteria. You'll type in the description, and then once you have the evaluation completed and the manager goes in to complete it on the employee, the manager will be able to select the rating, and then also enter in their own manager comments here. And it is going to give a total weighted score at the bottom. So you can weight the different criteria higher or lower of importance. And once this is complete, they would submit this to the employee to review. And when the employee is reviewing the evaluation, they'll be able to see all of the manager comments, they can see the ratings, and then they can also enter in their own feedback if they'd like. And then once they've reviewed the entire eval, they'll type in their name in a box to sign off on it electronically. Now this one's already been completed, so the box isn't there, but they'd be able to type in their name to sign off on this, and then we would keep a record of all of the completed evaluations on the website here, so you can track their performance and how they've improved throughout their employment. All right, and there is a chart on the main evaluations page here that will allow you to kind of get a good idea of how their performance has improved or gone down. And so we have an overall option here. We can also add other options from the evaluation criteria. So if they've been evaluated on like attendance or some of the other options on the website, we'll be able to add those to the chart, and we would show them, we would see them show up on the legend here. All right, and that is pretty much everything for evaluations. We'll have the history down here. We have the breakdown there. On the admin side, you also have the ability to see trends, so you can generate reports that'll show trends of how employees across the board are doing in different areas. So you'll be able to take a look at all that on the admin side as well. All right, so the next package I wanted to go over is the onboarding package. So the onboarding package, I'm going to start from the admin site to show you this one. The onboarding package will allow you to send an onboarding request to a new hire employee so they can go through and complete all of their documents that they need to sign off on. And so this will allow them to do it electronically, of course. So we would come in here to the admin site, greenshadesonline.com. You'll log in using your email and password, and then come over to the settings tab, come into onboarding. And then here is where you're going to set up your workflows. And so you can set up different types of workflows depending on the position you're hiring for, or maybe department, or location. So it's kind of up to you how you want to create these workflows. But when you're creating them, it will allow you to give the workflow a name based off of whatever your needs are. And then the values that are going to be assigned here are going to be used for each employee that goes through this workflow. So you can set up different values for different workflows. Now you don't have to assign all of these values right now. You can just assign some of the basic values that are going to be assigned to everyone that completes this workflow. And then later on, once they've submitted the onboarding request for approval, when you go in to approve it, you can adjust those settings for that specific employee before it syncs back into GP and creates the employee card for that employee. Now within these dropdowns, you are going to see all of your information being pulled from GP. So you'll be able to see your pay codes listed in here, all of your departments, your positions, all of those are going to be pulled right from your GP server. So you'll be able to set up all of those values however you need to. Once you have those set up, you're going to then set up the steps that the employee is going to go through during the onboarding process. And so we have some different options here. They can add profile, they can fill out their I-9, they can fill out direct deposit, W-4 here, state and federal W-4s. We have our custom documents. So if you have any other HR documents that employees fill out, and typically you have them fill it out on paper or you use some other option, you do have the ability to upload those custom documents into our website and create different documents for each employee or each group, different groups of employees. You can assign it however you'd like, either to a specific employee, to all employees, or to certain groups of employees, or you can also just not assign it to anybody and just have it be a reference document where employees would be able to come in and review it. But you can create different types of documents. You can create reference documents that they don't have to fill out or sign anything. You can create fillable forms where an employee will have to actually fill out the form and sign off on it. Or if it's just a document they have to read over and then sign off on, you can create those types of documents as well. And you can include as many custom documents as you'd like in the onboarding steps. The last step here is the W-2 and 1095-C distribution preference. So that's just asking them if they prefer to have a paper copy or if they're fine with having an electronic copy of those two forms. And we're going to keep track of what each employee selects with that. So at the end of the year, you only have to actually print out those forms for employees that requested paper copies. All right, so I'm just going to, once you have the workflow created, it's going to give you a link here, and then you'll be able to send that link to your new hire employee, or you can set up a kiosk within your organization and have it ready for new hires to come in and fill out. But when they click the link, it'll take them into the onboarding page here. You would, of course, have your company name or company logo over here, your company name here, and they would just hit start to begin the onboarding process. The first step will have them create their Greenshades login. So they would use an email address and password here. You can require them to use a corporate email if you'd like, and if they haven't been assigned one yet, they can still create one with a personal email and then change it to a corporate email later, or you can have them just skip the account creation step and then create their login afterwards. It'll still allow them to fill out all the same documents. All right, next step is our basic employee info. So they're just going to fill out all of their basic info here. All Right. That's new. Okay, let me use a different one. Okay. All right, and then we have our notification options here. So on this page, it's just going to ask the employee for an email address, how they want to be notified if this is approved or denied. And so they're just typing an email there. And then next, we have our profile setup. So the employee can fill out all their profile information, their name, address, marital status, emergency contacts, all of that. Everything that was on the HR profile tab, they'll be able to add in here. They can also add a picture of themselves if they'd like. All right, then we would have our direct deposit information, and it looks just like the direct deposit screen on the website. All right, and now it's just giving me an error because the routing number is unknown, and it's asking me if I'm sure I want to continue. So I'm just submitting that yes. Here we have our W-4. So this is our federal W-4. We currently we're working on a wizard for the federal W-4 because the W-4 is new, it changed this year. Last year for 2019 and earlier, we had the wizard available for employees to use, and it would basically just ask them some questions, and then based on their answers, it would fill out the form for them automatically. We're currently working on that, so it hasn't been made available yet, but the employee will still be able to actually fill out the form itself without going through the wizard. So they would just pull up the form itself here and update all of the fields that they need to. And once everything is completed there, they'd be able to type in their name to sign off on this. Then that's going to be submitted for approval. And once approved, it will sync back into GP and update their W-4 information in GP for you. All right, now here we have our state W-4s. So it is going to suggest a state W-4 to the employee based on whatever work location you selected when you're setting up the workflow. But if the employee, for whatever reason, feels they need to fill out a different state W-4, they can hit additional forms available here, and it'll give a list of all of the other state W-4s that are available, and they can find the one that they need to complete, and it'll pull it up, and they'll be able to sign it and submit it for approval. Next, we have our I-9 form. So there's a 3-step process to our I-9s. The employee can complete the basic employee information on section 1 of the I-9. They'll select if they're a US citizen, enter in their social, and then type in their name to sign off on it. And then when they submit that for approval and the admin goes in to approve the I-9, the admin will be able to fill out section 2 of the I-9, asking for their list A, list B, list C options, and they'll be able to input that information. They can upload images into the website as well. So they can add that in there, and then the last step will have them run e-verify on the employee to actually verify the employee's eligibility to work. All right, here we have a custom document. This is just our employee handbook from 2010. They'll be able to read over the handbook and then type in their name to sign off on it. If it was a fillable document, they'd be able to fill out all the fields on the document and sign off on it. and then they would hit sign and continue here. Then we have our last step, which is just the W-2 and 1095-C consent. And so they're just gonna decide if they would prefer to have a paper copy or if they're fine with an electronic copy, and hit sign and continue. All right, and now we're all done. The onboarding request should be submitted for approval. The HR admin, whoever you have assigned to approve those types of requests, should receive an email notification letting them know that they have an onboarding request awaiting approval. They'll be able to log into greenshadesonline.com, come into the Employees tab, and come down to Onboarding Requests, and they should see that request in here. And it's probably on page 4, maybe. Mike Jones. It would be right there. So we'll hit view on Mike Jones here. We'll be able to see all of the information that the employee entered in afterwards, after this is approved. So here, you're going to enter in the employee ID that's going to be assigned to the employee when it pushes back to GP. You can also set it up so it will automatically assign based on like a sequential order. Next, we have our employee address, make sure that's looking good. And then the values that are going to be assigned to the employee. Here is where you can adjust them for that specific employee. So earlier you could create them in that workflow, and those are the settings that are going to be assigned to most employees. And then when you go to approve it, you can assign all of the settings for that specific employee here. And then you would hit approve here, and the next time a sync is ran, it will sync into GP and create that new employee card for that employee in GP. And if you wanted to go in and approve all of the other documents that the employee signed off on, you can click on their name and then just scroll down to the bottom and bring up each document that they signed off on and approve each one. You also have the ability to just go into the Documents tab, and those same documents that they submitted will show up in there as well. But here you're going to see documents that have been submitted by all employees, really. You can filter it down to a specific employee or a specific document and find the specific stuff that you need to approve, but you'll be able to make all of those approvals right from here. This module, the onboarding module, can also be used for employees that are getting a promotion or getting a raise. You can create a onboarding workflow under the assign workflow option, and you can assign it to a current employee, and it will give them like an offer letter or something. You can attach an offer letter within the onboarding workflow and adjust the new default values for that employee that they'll be receiving when they get promoted or when they get the raise. And then when they go through and complete the onboarding process and sign off on it, then you get to approve it, and then it will sync back and update that information in GP for you. So you won't have to do all that manually. All right, now with this onboarding package, it's also going to give your current employees or your ongoing employees access to make updates to that information as well. So if they ever wanted to come in and update their W-4, or if you have other custom documents that might be optional, for instance, at Greenshades, we have a basketball hoop in the back of our building that we're only allowed to use if we sign a waiver form. They have a waiver form that's just sitting in our document library on the employee portal. So anybody that wants to use the basketball hoop has to go in, find that document within the document library, and then sign off on it. So it's not a document that's required for everybody to sign, just the employees that would be using the basketball hoop. So you can upload those and have ongoing employees have access to all of that as well. So I'm just going to get logged back in here as our test employee. Okay. All right. And so they'll be able to update their federal and state W-4s. They can update any custom documents that they need to sign off on. And if you have any employees that didn't fill out an I-9 for whatever reason during the onboarding process, and you still need to have them complete an I-9, they can still also complete the I-9 right from the employee portal as well without having to go through an onboarding process. So that's pretty much everything for the onboarding package. Jumping over to timesheets. So before I go over to the timesheets tab, just to explain our timesheets module, we have a timesheets module that allows employees to enter their time either through multiple options. We have the option on the mobile app. We have this option right here on the home page where they can clock in and out. There is a option on the timesheets tab which will allow them to manually enter their entries. So they can like select their day, select their time and that they worked and the time code and department that they be using. And it will generate those entries on the timesheet for them after they enter in that manual entry. The fourth option that we have is the time clock kiosk, which is an application that can be installed on any Windows computer that will allow your employees to come in, punch in a PIN number and their last four of their social. It'll allow them to clock in, and then they'll do the same thing to clock out. And then all of those entries are going to be synced up to their timesheet on the timesheets tab here. So with this timesheets module, it will allow them to keep track of their time entries throughout the pay period, and they'll be able to see all of those there. The manual entry option here is right here. They'll just hit add entry there, select their time code, their department, and then the date that they're entering time for. So as long as it's within the current pay period, they can add in that time there. If they took a lunch, they can check that box and enter in their lunch hours. If not, they can just hit save without it. And you have a lot of different custom settings or different things that you can adjust for your company. Like if you require employees to take a lunch after a certain number of hours, you can have it set up so it sends their supervisor a notification, or it even sends the employee a notification letting them know that they hadn't clocked out for lunch. We do have the ability to track shift differentials, overtime thresholds. So if an employee is supposed to make get paid with a different time code or a different pay code while working a certain shift, you can set up those schedules. You can also set up the overtime threshold. So if an employee works over, say, 40 hours, those additional hours worked over 40 hours will automatically be tracked using an overtime time code. All of the time codes that you're setting up on the portal are mapped to pay codes that you have set up in GP. So when you're going in to approve the timesheets and your payroll admin is ready to process payroll, there is a button on the admin side that will send all of the approved timesheets into GP and create a batch for you in GP, and then you would just process your payroll using that batch. That is pretty much the overview of what Timesheets does. Typically, we would go into a more detailed demonstration of this, but that's pretty much what it does. It allows employees to enter their time, submit their timesheets for approval. Supervisors will be able to approve it, and then your payroll admin will be able to send those approved timesheets into GP to process payroll. All right, any time off requests that are approved will also show up on their timesheet for that pay period, of course. Jumping over to benefits here. So our benefits module is going to allow your employees to go through an online benefits enrollment process. They'll be able to log into the website. They can see all of the different benefits that they're eligible for down here based on whichever package they're meeting the rules for. And we support pretty much any type of benefit that you might offer. Health, vision, dental, short-term, long-term disability, flexible spending accounts, HSAs, 401k, Roth 401k, life insurance. So pretty much anything that you might offer your employees will be able to support it. We are going to be pulling in your benefit and deduction codes from GP, and you would use those codes to set up the different plans that you offer on the admin site. And you will, of course, be working with our implementations team to get all of those different plans and packages set up. So they'll pretty much be holding your hand through the entire process. The packages will then be set up, and you can set up different rules that employees have to meet to be eligible for those packages. For instance, they have to be a full-time employee that works in a specific department or has a specific employee class. And if they're meeting all those rules, then they'll be eligible for this package. Under pending elections, it'll show anything that's been submitted for approval. So maybe they went through enrollment or submitted a qualifying life event and it's awaiting approval. That will show up under pending elections. And then current enrollment will show the plans that they're currently enrolled in. Now I'm just going to run through and submit a qualifying life event. It's similar to the open enrollment, but it just has a few extra steps here. So say an employee wanted to submit a QLE to add an additional family member. They would select that option there, select the date that this occurred. Maybe they got married or had a baby, and then they can add a document here. If they need to attach a copy of a birth certificate or something like that, they can add that in there. Then they would hit continue. They'll be able to then see all of the plans that they're eligible to enroll in, and say they just wanted to add them to health insurance. We can see our 3 plans that we're eligible for here. If we hit more information beside one of the plans, it'll give us a breakdown of what's included in that plan. So we'll be able to see everything for employee only. We can come down, we'll see employee plus spouse, employee plus children, and employee plus family. And if we wanted to compare all of our options, we can click this link here. It'll give us a breakdown of each plan, and we can compare them side by side. You also have the ability to attach PDF documents that you might have received from your providers. So employees can bring up that document, review it, and then go back and select the plan that they want to use. After they select their plan, they'll then have their dependents. So all of their dependent information will first be entered into the HR profile tab. So like their name, social, all of that info will be entered in there. And then when they're going through to submit the QLE or open enrollment, that's where we'll be pulling the dependent information from. So they'll select the plan that they want, and then we'll show the dependents that we have listed on the website. And so maybe they just wanted to add one dependent there. They can select that there and just hit enroll. Then it'll give us a total breakdown of our employer cost and employee cost, and it'll list that for each plan here when we're going through. And then at the bottom, it'll give us a total. And if all that looks good, we'll just type in our name to sign off on this. We'll just type in our name to sign off on this and submit that for approval. All right. And if we, let's see, so once that's submitted for approval, your HR admin should receive a notification letting them know that they have a benefits request awaiting approval or a QLE awaiting approval. And then once approved, it will sync back into GP for you and update the benefit and deduction codes for that employee. We have the ability to set up EDI feeds if you're a provider for health, vision, and dental. If your provider accepts an EDI feed, we can automatically sync changes back to those providers using EDI feeds. If you choose not to purchase an EDI feed, or if your providers don't accept them, the other option that we have is the enrollment reports. So you'll have the ability to generate enrollment reports from the admin side, and it's a pretty simple process. You just select the fields that the provider requires within the report and then click generate, and it'll pull all of that information into one report so you can send it over to the providers that you need to. All right. And let's see. The benefits module is also going to do the tracking for the Affordable Care Act. So we'll be able to keep track of your employees' full-time status, letting you know when employees are meeting a full-time status requirement and should be offered coverage. And then we'll also be tracking coverage being offered to employees. making sure that the coverage you're offering is considered affordable based off of ACA requirements. And then at the end of the year, when you're ready to generate your 1095Cs, there's a button on the admin side that you can click that will allow you to generate those right on the year-end form site, and you can distribute those to your employees when you need to. All right, and that is pretty much everything for benefits and for the employee portal. I don't have any questions yet. I'm going to jump over to our payroll tax service and quickly run through that. So the payroll tax service would be accessed on the admin side, and it's going to allow you to file the different returns for your payroll tax. It'll also allow you to submit payments if you have any. So the forms that we'd be supporting with this module or this package is federal W-2s, your 940, 941s, new hire reporting, state withholding, SUTA, and local W-2s. So we'll be able to support all of that from this website here. And if you had any payroll taxes that you needed to submit, you would come into the tax service tab here and you would see them listed here. And you'd be able to just click file return beside one of these, and it'll calculate that return using the data that we're pulling from your GP server. And the workspace I usually use is not set up properly right now. They must have been doing some tests with it. So I'm just trying to find a report that is set up properly. All right, so what it'll typically do is when you click file return here, it'll take you into a page, it'll calculate the totals, and it'll list those totals over here. And if those totals look good to you, you would have a submit button down here without all of the errors, of course, and you'd be able to submit that directly to that agency right from our website. If you had any edits that you needed to make to this return, you'd be able to click here to edit the information, and it'll take you into our advanced editor screen, and you would see all of your employee information listed here. And to edit this, you would export it into an Excel document, and the document would get created. It would look something like this. It would have more information because you'd have more employee info within it, but you'll be able to make the adjustments to that document, save it, then come back to the website and import that information back in here. And once that's all good, you would hit save and finish. It'll take you back to the previous page, recalculate that information, and then you'd be able to submit that return right from the website here. If you had any payments that you needed to submit, you would be able to come in here, select the payment. You would hit pay now. It'll take you to this page here. It'll show the payment amount. If that looks good to you, you'll select the bank that you want to pay from. And you would, if you're paying late, you'll say you'll understand your responsibility for late fees or penalties, and then you would submit the payment. There would be a submit payment button down there. But since it's $0, we don't have a submit payment there. All right, so we will be able to submit all of those returns or payments right from the website. You won't have to navigate out to the different agency websites. You'll be able to submit them right from our website here. You'll also be able to come in and look at historical returns and payments that you've submitted in the past by coming down here and clicking view on any of these. But that's really how this works. The way that we're pulling in that data is we're using all your payroll transactions that we use to generate your pay stubs. We'll use that same information to calculate all of your different returns that you'd be filing throughout the year. And we'll send you notifications when different returns are coming due or payments are coming due, and you'll just log into the website to submit those payments or returns. And that is pretty much everything I wanted to go over today. I don't see any questions yet. Does anybody have any questions at all?
We don't have any questions in the queue.
Okay. All right. Well, that is everything I wanted to go over. If you do have any questions, feel free to send them over to Manor Costerisan, and they can pass it along to me, and I can get those answered for you. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. I think Kate is having some connection issues. She texted me a minute ago and said she had lost her computer, her computer shut down. So anyway, I want to thank you, Mark, for providing us with great information, and we really appreciate you taking the time to go over Greenshades with us. If we do have any questions, please forward them to Kate, and she will make sure that she gets in touch with Mark. Oh, Kate, I'll turn it over to you.
Perfect. Yeah. You unmuted me, but I didn't unmute myself. So yeah, feel free to reach out to me, send those questions right to me on my email, kwatts@mainorsolutions.com, and I can get those over to Mark and the Greenshades team, and we can get things taken care of for you. Thank you very much, Mark. I really appreciate it, and thank you everyone who attended another Third Party Thursday.
Thank you.